Well, here's what's left of a BuckBoard. That's another name for a farm wagon. This had a hay collection. This could be used to collect hay or corn, or actually even go to town. It was your Saturday ride to town. Cool wheels, wooden axles, and this is a step up from the horse and buggy days. It has a actual grease zerk and bearing. I don't know exactly what's in there. Probably a roller bearing. This is definitely horse drawn. What's left of the hitch. Yeah, probably a 6-foot board would have come out to the front, and it would have, well, probably a 10-foot that would hook between two horses onto a double tree. Now this one had a wishbone suspension. I'm not exactly sure how well that worked, but this is a hay buck. Unfortunately, this isn't the one I used because it seems to have disappeared or fell apart. Yeah, it completely fell apart, and I don't see it out here. Okay, thanks for watching. This, I believe, is in the 60s. Okay, here's a corn picker. This would have went on probably like an 8-in Ford tractor, I believe is what is fit, because this is a Ford picker. Now the difference here, instead of cutting off the whole plant, the plant would be dried up from, the end of the season, and it would go in between these two rollers here. And these two rollers would rip the plant out, and the ear would drop it down into that little gathering chain. And you can see we don't have as nearly aggressive rollers handling ear corn, because they would shell out and spill all over. And this one just had a piece of rubber on that roller. Like there might be a okay, yeah, come up. That's cool. Not sure what that handle was for. It would come on up this elevator. Which still might work. Now the wire here is not part of the machine, but I think we can show the function of it. All right, the ears dropped out this hole and down onto this table. And it would feed across these rollers. One was steel and one was rubber. And they would spin together and pull these shucks off the ear. Okay, the shucks would of course fall on the ground. There's probably a blower or something under there that handled that. And then the deshucked corn would come over here and fall into this elevator. This elevator would take it up into a wagon. Now, I never had the pleasure of using this machine. Here's the connectors. It mounted solidly to your tractor. There's a dust collector in here that does not go with the machine. I'm not quite sure what drove it. The 8-in had a PTO on it, but it looks like there's a part missing, because there should be a pulley right down in here going over to those pulleys. That big pretty blue one. Okay, next we'll go into the balers. Operating this thing took a lot of little chains and such. As you can see, and all this stuff could be made to work again. I'm gonna have to find the drive unit, which might be very hard to do. Okay, well, we're off to Balers now. I'm guessing the fence post was in there to keep animals from getting down into this device here. Now this is a very old style header. Double gathering chains. So what this did, okay, this is actually a forage harvester, not a, yes, not a corn picker. Down in there is a sickle, and we can see what's left of it over here. But it would cut off the entire corn plant and feed it into the chopper, which would blow back into a hopper. I guess I should check for snakes here. All right, here's the sickle driver. An eccentric pulley. Not sure where it's driven from. The sickle head is that bulbous thing over here. There's a sickle head, the driven part, and then the driven would be down probably on this boulder hidden here in the sand. And then here's the part that hooked to the tractor. The actual hitch will be down here. Oh, here it is. Here's the actual hitch that hooked to your drawbar. Then there's a little short shaft that turned this shaft. And that's what got the whole thing going. It'd come back to here and run the flat belt. This still turns. That's pretty amazing. Okay, I have a corn picker over here. I'll show you how that works right now. Well, before I get to the balers, at the time there was two different methods of collecting hay. This one here is a chopper. There's the big chopping wheel. See if I can do this without getting a finger chopped. The way these choppers work, this knife here, that's in really good condition, would chop the hay that this roller brought into it. And then these plates here act as a blower. So this is a blowing unit as well as a chopping unit. There's the next plate. And this would throw it up through a chute and then do a wagon. It got into your blower using this rattle chain. So it would come up from the header, go under this nasty looking little drum, which just held it, kept the crop moving. It didn't do anything but keep the crop moving. And then go back into the chopper blower. Here's the what's little rattle chain underneath here. This machine could be made operational again. Look at this antique wheel. You don't see those too often anymore. I'm not sure where this Well, this helped collect, yeah, that just collected the material. And then here's the pickup unit. This was to collect windrows, which you could make either with a windrower or with a rake. This unit was made, I believe, I don't show here, this, to pull with a tractor. I'm sure this was a tractor driven unit. Here's the outlet for the stack, or the blower chute. This is what it come out of at pretty high velocity and would go up the chute and into your wagon or truck if you had a second driver. Okay, here's another one here. This is the exact same unit except for the header, and it drove with a flat belt. This is the drive shaft pulley, and this is the driven pulley. Okay, again, we have the big chopper blower drum. Now this one has two sets of blowers on it. That knife back there looks to be in good shape. I'm not sure why they quit using this, except they got a better machine, or a bigger machine. Okay, this works the same way. The rattle chain brings it up from the header. And then this nasty looking little drum feeds the material back into the chopper. Okay, this header did corn. You see it has big nose cones on there, and that collected the corn plant. This chain went around to the inside. Let me show you that. Now we got a fence post in here. So I will move the fence post right quick. Well, in my last video, I spoke of haying machines and equipment. And now we're going to talk about hay collection equipment. Now, one might think of hay balers and such not, and we'll get to that. But there's something that here I want to show you that might be a little bit different. This here is what's called a hay buck. This device, here I think you can see it, would mount to a loader, a tractor loader. Various pinning units here to mount it on some type of loader. I didn't see the original one. And this, you would skim this along the ground and pick up windrows or little piles, little dumps, if you had the ability to make little dumps, which might be a collector on the back end of a combine. And I might have one of those here I could show you. This rack, this pipe rack here, would slide down these rails and unload whatever you had on it. It was a very slick machine. And it did that by using this cylinder here. The cylinder would activate, and here's the slide. It would go this far, which translates into more movement up here. Here's the swivel points. Using scissor action, it would slide clear to the end and dump the hay you had on the tines. Now these are kind of buried. Originally, all the tines were made of wood, and they had a little metal tip on them. I don't see one of those here. You can still see what was left of the wood tines. My father added these rails, the metal ones, and I'd say he did a pretty fair job on it. Now here's a homemade, yes, he made these. Look at that. A homemade point that would skid on the ground. It had a little skid plate on it. He made these two. But that's how it worked. It was modern technology at the time. This is probably a 60-year-old piece of equipment. And this rail here would slide down to the end of those points and dump your load. Okay, this is the hay buck. See if I can get a little better shot of it. Do a little pan here. Next we'll go to the small square balers. I'll show you a little bit how those work and collected your hay.